Hello, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Thursday night. It is the Earthmaster out here. Hope everyone's having a wonderful evening out there. 11:03 p.m. That's California time here along the West Coast. June 12th, 2025. By the way, tomorrow, Friday the 13th. Goodness, watch out. No telling what can happen out there tomorrow. Latest activity here on the earthquake 3D globe shows, well, at least on the earthquake map here, shows some continuous movement here across the Garlock fault shear zone in a specific area out here. Its center portion. Man, has this area been swarming like crazy. Let me show you guys here real quick. This is just in the last 30 days. 136 earthquakes of various magnitudes out here along the Garlock fault shear zone. If we were to go back here the past couple months or so, there'd probably be quite a few hundred more earthquakes being reported along this area of the Garlock fault shear zone. Now, this is pretty much unprecedented because this is out of the blue. A couple months of swarming here with no large earthquake activity, and that could be a very bad sign here for the Southern California area. Now, the Garlock fault shear zone is the second largest fault system out here in Southern California. Very prominent feature out across the map here. It stretches from east to west. That is a shear zone that interacts here. It kind of acts as a spring with the plate boundary, the San Andreas Fault. Now, according to the Caltech website here, the Garlock fault shear zone is capable of producing up to a 7.6 earthquake, with the last interval, or the last earthquake, being reported potentially around 1050, potentially 1500 AD. That is question marks here. Intervals between major ruptures run between 200 and 3,000 years. So this is very interesting here because I don't recall the last earthquake that ever recorded on this fault system here. It's a very slow-moving fault system, but it acts as a spring, so to speak, there in terms of stress accumulation there along the plate boundary. The interaction between the Pacific plate here to the west and the North American plate here to the east definitely got a lot of potential and interaction here with the San Andreas Fault. This is it's pretty much an unprecedented earthquake swarm out there across that area of Southern California. Let's go back here just real quick and see what we got. I really do want to double check that in terms of at least let's go back here to the first of the year and see what we got. A very prominent feature out here, right? In fact, you can see it out here on the topography of the map here of Southern California. I brought up every magnitude, pretty much 0 and above since the first of the year. So hopefully I don't blow up my computer. So let's see what we got here. There we go. That's a decent number. Bring up the satellite view here, see where we're at. Yeah, look at that. Most of the earthquake activity that's been occurring in this earthquake swarm of 446 earthquakes. Wow. With largest magnitude being a 3.4. That's quite rare to see this number of earthquakes in an earthquake swarm with no main quake out there on any fault system there across Southern California. So this leads me to believe here that this fault system, the Garlock fault shear zone, may be getting ready to produce a large earthquake. According to the Wikipedia article, the slip rate here is between 2 and 11 mm per year. Average slip rate around 7 millimeters per year. Now, there's a little bit of information floating around here that an 8.0 earthquake can strike on this fault system. And that, along with the interaction of the San Andreas Fault, it would probably obviously trigger an 8.0 on the San Andreas Fault. So we got 2 8-pointers out there in Southern California. But look at this right here. The Wikipedia article mentions right here that the Los Angeles Times indicated that a magnitude 8.0 earthquake along the Garlock Fault would have potential for grave disaster. So we already seen that can report up to a 7.6. I'm telling you, this Garlock Fault shear zone plays more of a part in earthquake activity and in relation to the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault than what most people think. I'm telling you guys, this acts as a spring here. And when things are loaded, locked and loaded here, in terms of earthquake swarming here, man, we really got to watch both areas out here. The Garlock Fault Shear Zone and the San Andreas Fault, the southern branch. That's a no-brainer. We got big-time potential out there for a large earthquake along both of those areas. And they, at least the Garlock Fault Shear Zone has been swarming here over the last couple months, and it's picked up here today. And in the last hour or so, 2.7 there. So watch that very closely, folks. I'm telling you, there's an interaction, there's a relationship here between the two. And it may come to pass here after my words have been spoken that we may see a large earthquake after the fact here. But got to watch that very closely. When things are swarming up there, things are on the move. The tension out here is strengthening. Outside of Riverside at 1.1. One earthquake here just off the San Andreas Fault, a little 2.1 earlier this afternoon. No big earthquake activity out here to note for now, folks, but I'm telling you guys, you know, it's getting close. When I see things like this taking place here, I think we're getting very close to seeing something big out here across the area. A lot of earthquake activity around these suspected zones. San Francisco, quiet. Northern California, quiet. Pacific Northwest, quiet, aside from a couple earthquakes around Mount St. Helens. A real quick glance here at the tremor activity shows 232 epicenters of tremor underneath Vancouver Island ranges and the southwestern coast here of Oregon. Nothing of any abnormal activity as far as earthquake activity being reported, though, for now, across that area. But watch it. Watch it closely. Yellowstone National Park, nothing going on there for earthquake activity. Texas, pretty quiet out there. Aside from, guess what? Oil fields. Who would have thought? A lot of earthquake activity striking out there. The eastern portion of the country, pretty quiet. Dude, look at what's happening out here across the South Pacific Ocean here. There's a lot of activity stirring up out here. This is the most recent earthquake here, a 5.3 earthquake around the Balleny Islands region. This follows a swarm of earthquake activity out here along the Pacific and the Antarctica Ridge. This activity here, oh man, I'm telling you guys, watch New Zealand very, very closely. That is probably putting quite a bit of strain out there along the New Zealand area with this most recent activity happening there south of the area. If you look here, and I kind of chatted about this early this morning in the update video, when earthquake activity strikes here along the Antarctica and the plate boundary of the Pacific Plate, that's the yellow and the blue here, guess where the arrows are pointing? You got it. New Zealand. And man, is it showing like crazy right now. Look at the activity stirring up here across this area. No big earthquake activity across New Zealand yet, but you gotta watch that. Really gotta watch that. The strength here, the impression that I'm seeing is pointing all signs towards New Zealand there along the plate boundary. Low 3.7 off the Alpine Fault south into South Island, New Zealand. But keep an eye on this overnight. I'm telling you guys, watch that very closely. That's no joke. Some movement off the coast there of the, let's see where that's at. Well, nothing's showing up on the USGS map. Looks like it's off the coast there of Guatemala. A couple of fours stirring up there. South America area, some 4s and 3s. Nothing major going on there for now, but man, keep an eye there on New Zealand. Things have been amplified up here across the northwestern area of this region. Look at all the earthquake activity across the Vanuatu northwestward along Solomon Islands. All this is fairly new activity, and it's in a region here where you expect the stress to strain the plate boundaries, right? I just showed you guys here the plate map. Earthquake activity that occurs around the Antarctica and the Pacific plate boundary. Look where the arrows are all pointing, right? If it doesn't break here across the New Zealand and Tonga Trench area, that strain can produce areas up northward along this plate boundary here. And all this is heading towards, guess what? The Filipino plate and up towards the Japan area, where we've seen another super deep earthquake there along the Izu Trench. Watching this very, very closely here, because the Nankai Trough here, this major subduction zone, is under, man, it's under quite a bit of a strain out here. That deeper earthquake activity, I guarantee you, putting the strain across that subduction zone. No major earthquake activity there for now, but oh man, I guarantee you it's building up. It's building up. That's a no joke. The Aleutian Trench there, pretty quiet aside from a couple small earthquakes there. A supple? There we go. That's a new word. I'm going to create a new word here. It's Thursday night. Oh man, let me tell you, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. So you know what? Might as well mix in with the craziness, right? A couple earthquakes out there around the Big Island in Hawaii. Nothing major going on. Just some earthquake activity out there in the Central Pacific. Let's take a look here at the earthquake 3D globe. Nothing going on out there across the Atlantic Ocean. Pretty quiet out there. 2.6 out around the Turkey area right now. You know, there's a lot going on out here as far as political stuff going on. So just, you know, I don't like to talk about politics here on this channel, but when things are going on a world view, the world scene here, right? That's when natural disasters seem to strike out here. So, you know, there's a lot going on in Southern California right now. A big earthquake out here wouldn't surprise me because of the activity that's stirring up out here. A big earthquake out in the Middle East where all this potential war activity is going on, it wouldn't surprise me. Watch these areas very closely, okay? And mark my words. I don't want to see it happen, but things are escalating out there on a global scale. And, you know, it's if you haven't checked in on the news here, I suggest you do. I don't want to talk about politics here on this channel, but look into it. Space weather activity. Well, check this out. Out of the blue, just literally out of the black, I should say, because space is not blue, right? It's black. Got a G3 class storm sparking up out of nowhere. Really, what is this from? How did this occur? Think about that, right? There's been no major solar flares, no major CMEs. We've had a coronal hole here, number 57, been facing us for a little bit, but it's not even really into the Earth-directed view to where we would even see any space weather effects right now. What is up with that? I think it's got to do with what these guys are talking about. The BZ component of the IMF, which is the interplanetary magnetic field, is allowing all and any solar wind stream to flow right into the planet and amplify the aurora conditions, regardless of if we got any CME activity or not. So just typical solar wind stream that we're always being bombarded with, doesn't matter, every day. That has ramped up to a G3 class storm. What is going on here with the magnetic field? So something's going on. I want to check out the real-time solar wind stream out here real quick, see what we got. Okay, dude, wow, look at this, wide open. This is the BZ component here, BZ component, this wide open south, pointing south. That pretty much allows the typical solar wind stream, which is very low right now, around 400, 450, to come up to a G3 class solar storm. That is incredible. So that leads me to believe here that once the arrival of the coronal hole stream comes in, we could be talking about things elevated above that G3 class storm. Right now, you know, again, this just popped up out of the blue. Crazy amount of aurora activity up there right now. I don't know where you guys are at watching this video, but if you're seeing auroras up there, let me know. If you want to share those videos or photos, send them to earthmastermail@gmail.com. But a G3 class storm, KP index of 6+ is occurring right now as we speak, due to literally just nothing. just because of the BZ component pointing south. So anything that is flowing out there from the sun is directly affecting the planet. Crazy stuff. You don't see it all that often out there. Normally you'll see the G3 class storm come in because of a CME, a coronal mass ejection headed to the planet that was shot off from a major solar flare. Well, that didn't happen. But we're getting a G3 class storm right now. Pretty crazy stuff. Again, that doesn't happen all that often. But the BZ component there is allowing it. I can only imagine what happens once we get the high-speed solar wind stream. So there's a lot going on right now with the magnetic, the Earth magnetic activity right now. Got to watch that closely. Auroras are kicking up like crazy. It looks like flaring activity. Well, we got some movement out there, or at least some activity out in the northeastern quadrant of the sun. Nothing major going on. I mean, it's pretty crazy. Does it even matter if we get a solar flare now or CME? Where's all this activity occurring from? Really not looking at anything major out here. Got a little bit of C flare, M flare potential from these sunspots. Maybe also out here as well. The overall flare threat shows minimal activity. M flare at 40%, X flare at 5%, C flare around 95% chance or so. But this is pretty much popped out of the blue as far as this aurora activity. Pretty crazy. A lot going on out there in the space science world, let me tell you. Storm Prediction Center got day one outlook. Looks like here for Friday. Is this Friday? Yeah, Friday. Maybe potentially early Friday. This may be just overnight here. Let me double check that here and see what we got. Yeah, this isn't Friday to Saturday. This is for the day for tomorrow. Slight risk for some severe weather all the way up into the beautiful state of Montana. The main threat is going to be some hail up there around Billings and Sheridan, Wyoming, close to Butte. Just a heads up. Got severe weather potential out there. So, all right. Keep an eye here, guys, on the Southern California region. That's, unusual earthquake activity there along the Garlock fault shear zone. Something that we haven't witnessed there in the years that I've been studying earthquake activity. So this may be something, it may be not. But the Garlock fault shear zone acts as a major, it's a shear zone, right? It acts as a spring, so to speak, along the interaction of the Pacific and the North American plate. So there's relationship between the two, the San Andreas fault and the Garlock fault shear zone. Both of them obviously capable of producing potentially up to an 8.0. What happens if one produces an 8 and it triggers another 8? Yeah, that would be absolute chaos out there for two 8.0s in Southern California. But got to watch that, folks. All right, I'm out of here. Have yourself a wonderful evening. We'll catch you guys out here for the Friday morning update. Friday, can you believe it? Friday is upon us. Wait a minute here. Oh, wait a minute. Not quite ending this update video yet. Look what we have coming on here across Japan. That is a big earthquake. Completely flatlined the seismograph station there in Japan. So hold your horses here. See what we got going on there across Japan. Nothing yet. This is just coming in there. Decent signature there across Japan. Looks like a localized event. If this was a humongous earthquake up in the 7 or 8 range, we would already be seeing a signature of a P wave across many seismograph stations out here. But I don't see it. Could potentially be maybe a 4 or 5 in the area. Let's see here. Nothing being reported yet from the USGS or the EMSC. I don't think it's a big earthquake. But there's potential, man. Oh, gosh. I just got a yawn here out of the blue. I'm tired. It's past my bedtime. A lot going on here. Deep activity here in the Izu Trench. Activity north, south. Not the Izu Trench. I'm really not worried about the Izu Trench. Even though it can produce some big earthquakes, it's the Nankai Trough here. That is a major, major subduction zone that's been building up some stress and steam here, so to speak. Watch that area quite closely there, folks. I don't think this earthquake is a big deal, so we'll go ahead and call it. Otherwise, a big signature of a 6 or 7 or even 8, 9 above would show up across all these seismograph stations at the same time, but they're not doing that. So even though it's a localized earthquake, I don't think it's of anything of major value. But you kind of have to watch the proximity, the location. If that's an earthquake happening around the Nankai Trough, that's even more important. I don't see anything happening there, though. There's a 2.5 back over here. Obviously, a 2.5 is not going to show up like that on the Japan station. So something else. Let me check the EMSC model here, but that would show up again on the globe. I just don't see it showing up though for now. But again, it just came in, localized there to the Japan area. It takes a little bit for the the seismograph stations to report the data to the appropriate agencies and whatnot. So, all right, I'm out of here. I don't see it showing up on anything spectacular. We'll catch you guys out here tomorrow morning for the Friday morning update. Please stay safe out there and have a good evening. We'll see you guys here real soon.